Kentucky, every holler has a secret. From alien encounters to ancient curses, we're bringing 12 mysterious legends back to life. Number 1. The Hopkinsville Goblins. On the night of August 21st, 1955, the Sutton family experienced something that would change their lives forever. What started as a quiet evening on their farm near Hopkinsville turned into one of the most famous alien encounters in American history. It all began when Billy Ray Taylor stepped outside and saw a bright light streak across the sky and disappear behind the trees. Soon after, glowing creatures about 3 feet tall began appearing around the farmhouse. They had large heads, pointed ears, and long arms that nearly touched the ground. The family described them as metallic, almost silver, with a strange glow that seemed to come from within. When the creatures approached the house, the men grabbed their guns and started shooting. But the bullets seemed to have no effect. The beings would fall backward when hit, then float away into the darkness. For hours, the family was under siege. The creatures would appear at windows, on the roof, and in the yard, always just out of reach. Terrified and desperate, the Suttons finally fled to the police station in Hopkinsville. When officers returned with them to investigate, they found bullet holes and damage, but no sign of the visitors. Even today, the farmhouse area is known for strange lights and unexplained sightings. UFO researchers still visit the site, and locals speak in hushed tones about that night when something from beyond the stars decided to pay Kentucky a visit. The Hopkinsville Goblins became a legend that refuses to fade, reminding us that sometimes the impossible becomes undeniably real. Number 2. The Witch's Tree of Louisville. Deep in Cherokee Park in Louisville stands an ancient oak tree with a twisted, gnarled appearance that seems to defy nature itself. Locals call it the Witch's Tree, and for good reason. Legend says this centuries-old giant was once the gathering place for a coven of witches who practiced dark magic beneath its sprawling branches. The tree's bark is scarred and twisted in ways that form what look like faces screaming in eternal torment. Its branches grow in impossible directions, creating shadows that seem to move on their own, even when there's no wind. Those who've touched the tree say it feels unnaturally cold, even on the hottest summer days, and some claim to hear whispers coming from within the trunk. The curse of the witch's tree is simple but terrifying. Harm the tree, and misfortune will follow you home. Over the years, several people have tried to carve initials or break branches as souvenirs. According to local stories, these people have suffered accidents, illness, or worse within days of their visit. Park visitors report seeing strange lights flickering around the tree at night, and some have photographed what appears to be figures standing beneath its branches when no one was there. Children playing nearby often run away crying, claiming they heard voices calling their names from inside the tree. Whether you believe in curses or not, the Witch's Tree stands as a reminder that some things in Kentucky are better left undisturbed. In a state where the old ways still hold power, this ancient oak continues to guard its secrets, twisted and patient as the day it first took root. Number 3. Sleepy Hollow Road and Crybaby Bridge. In the rolling hills outside Louisville, there's a winding stretch of road that locals avoid after dark. Sleepy Hollow Road leads to what's known as Crybaby Bridge, and both carry a legend that has haunted Kentucky for generations. The story begins with tragedy, as so many ghost stories do. According to legend, a young mother was traveling this road on a stormy night in the 1940s when her car broke down on the old stone bridge. Desperate to get help for her sick baby, she left the child in the car and walked into the darkness to find assistance. When she returned hours later, the baby was gone. Some say the child fell into the creek below and drowned. Others believe something more sinister took place. Ever since that night, people driving across the bridge report hearing the unmistakable sound of a baby crying. The wails seem to come from the water below, echoing off the stone walls with heartbreaking clarity. Many have stopped their cars and searched the area, but the crying always stops the moment they step outside. But the baby's cries aren't the only thing that haunts this stretch of road. Drivers have reported seeing a woman in white walking along the roadside, always heading toward the bridge. She never acknowledges passing cars, and when people try to offer help, she simply vanishes. Some believe she's the mother, still searching for her lost child after all these years. The legend has grown over the decades. Teenagers dare each other to cross the bridge at midnight, and paranormal investigators regularly visit with recording equipment. Whether it's tragedy, imagination, or something truly supernatural, Sleepy Hollow Road and Crybaby Bridge remain one of Kentucky's most enduring mysteries. Number 4. The Beast of Land Between the Lakes. In the wilderness area between Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley lies one of the most remote and mysterious regions in the state. Land between the lakes is 170,000 acres of dense forest, abandoned homesteads, and forgotten graveyards. But according to local legend, something else calls this place home, something that's neither fully wolf nor fully human. They call it the Beast of LBL, and descriptions vary depending on who's telling the story. Some say it's a massive wolf that walks upright like a man, with glowing yellow eyes and fangs that can tear through steel. Others describe it as more human-like but covered in dark fur, with claws instead of fingers, and a howl that can be heard for miles. The legend gained traction in the 1980s when campers and hikers began reporting encounters with something that defied explanation. Families would find their tents shredded and their food scattered, with massive paw prints leading away into the forest. Hunters spoke of being stalked by something intelligent, something that seemed to understand their weapons and kept just out of range. One of the most famous encounters involved a family camping near the old Hillman Ferry area. They were awakened by growling outside their tent and saw a massive, dark shape silhouetted against their campfire. When the father grabbed his flashlight, the beam revealed something that looked like a wolf but stood 7 feet tall on its hind legs. It stared at them for what felt like hours before melting back into the darkness. Even today, park rangers receive reports of unusual tracks, mysterious howls, and encounters with something that doesn't fit any known animal category. Whether it's a surviving population of dire wolves, an unknown species, or something more supernatural, the Beast of Land Between the Lakes continues to roam the Kentucky wilderness, reminding us that some places still hold secrets we're not meant to understand. Number 5. Octagon Hall Ghosts. In the small town of Franklin, Kentucky, stands one of the most architecturally unique and haunted buildings in the South. Octagon Hall, built in 1859, is exactly what its name suggests, an 8-sided antebellum mansion that served as both a family home and a stop on the Underground Railroad during the Civil War. The house was built by Andrew Jackson Caldwell, a man with strong abolitionist beliefs who used the unusual design to hide runaway slaves. Secret passages wind through the walls, and hidden rooms provided sanctuary for those seeking freedom. But the hall's history of helping others escape slavery may have also made it a target, and tragedy followed. During the Civil War, the mansion was used as a Union hospital, and many soldiers died within its walls. The combination of suffering, death, and the intense emotions of people fighting for their freedom seems to have left an indelible mark on the building. Today, Octagon Hall is a museum, but visitors and staff report experiences that suggest the past isn't quite past. Footsteps echo through empty hallways, doors open and close on their own, and voices are heard in rooms where no one is present. Some have seen figures in Civil War-era clothing walking the halls, while others report the sounds of crying and moaning coming from areas that once served as hospital wards. One of the most frequently reported spirits is that of a young woman in a white dress who appears on the main staircase. She's believed to be Mary Caldwell, Andrew's daughter, who died young and may still be watching over the house her family built. Tour guides speak of cold spots that appear suddenly, photographs that show unexplained figures, and electronic equipment that malfunctions without reason. Whether these are the spirits of former slaves seeking eternal freedom, soldiers who never left their posts, or family members still protecting their home, Octagon Hall remains one of Kentucky's most actively haunted locations. Number 6. The Gates of Hell. In the town of Southgate, Kentucky, Grandview Cemetery holds a reputation that extends far beyond its role as a final resting place. Local legend speaks of the Gates of Hell, an area within the cemetery where the boundary between the living and the dead becomes dangerously thin. The legend centers around an ornate iron gate that once stood at the entrance to a family mausoleum. According to local stories, this gate was more than just an entrance, it was a portal. Those who dared to enter after midnight would find themselves not just among the dead, but in a place that existed somewhere between this world and the next. People who visited the cemetery reported seeing figures that didn't belong among the headstones. Shadowy forms would move between the graves, and some visitors claimed to hear voices speaking in languages they didn't recognize. The temperature around the gate would drop suddenly, even on warm summer nights, and electronic devices would fail without explanation. One of the most disturbing aspects of the legend involves those who spent too much time near the gate. Several people reported losing hours of memory, finding themselves standing in different parts of the cemetery with no recollection of how they got there. A few claimed to have brief glimpses of another realm, a place of darkness and despair that felt more real than reality itself. Over the years, the original gate was removed or relocated, but locals insist the portal remains. They say you can still feel the pull of something otherworldly in that section of the cemetery, and sensitive individuals report feeling watched by unseen eyes. Whether the gates of hell are a genuine supernatural phenomenon or the product of overactive imaginations, Grandview Cemetery continues to draw those seeking contact with the unknown. In a state where the veil between worlds has always been thin, some places serve as reminders that not all doorways should be opened. Number 7. The Lake Harrington Monster. Nestled in central Kentucky, Lake Harrington stretches for miles through the rolling landscape, its deep waters hiding secrets that date back to its creation in the 1920s. But according to local fishermen and boaters, something else lurks beneath the surface, something that doesn't appear on any wildlife survey. The Lake Harrington Monster, as locals call it, is described as a serpentine creature anywhere from 15 to 30 feet long. Witnesses report seeing a long, snake-like body moving through the water, sometimes breaking the surface in multiple places as it undulates through the lake. Its head, when visible, is said to be larger than a horse's, with dark, intelligent eyes that seem almost human. The first recorded sighting dates back to the 1970s, when a group of water skiers reported seeing something massive swimming beneath their boat. The creature was so large that it created a wake even while submerged, and when it surfaced briefly, they described a head unlike anything they'd ever seen. Since then, sightings have continued regularly. Fishermen speak of something huge brushing against their boats, creating ripples on calm days when no wind is blowing. Some have reported their depth finders showing large objects moving in the deep waters, objects that disappear as quickly as they appear. One of the most compelling accounts came from a local marina owner who swore he saw the creature sunning itself on a remote cove early one morning. He described it as being dark brown or black, with skin that looked more like leather than scales. When it noticed him watching, it slipped silently back into the depths. Whether the Lake Harrington Monster is a surviving prehistoric creature, an unknown species, or something more mysterious, the legend continues to grow. In a state where underground rivers connect distant waterways and caves run deeper than anyone knows, it's not hard to imagine that something ancient might still call Kentucky's waters home. Number 8. The Witch Girl of Pilottown. In the small community of Pilottown, Kentucky, there's a story that parents still tell their children, part warning and part wonder. It's the tale of a young girl who died under mysterious circumstances in the 1800s and whose spirit refuses to rest peacefully. The legend tells of a girl, no more than 12 years old, who lived with her grandmother on the outskirts of town. The old woman was rumored to be a healer and herbalist, but whispers around town suggested she practiced darker arts. The girl learned at her grandmother's side, gathering herbs by moonlight and speaking to animals as if they understood her every word. When a series of unexplained events began plaguing the town, crops failing, livestock dying, children falling ill with mysterious fevers, suspicion fell on the old woman and her young apprentice. Fear and superstition ran high, and one night, an angry mob descended on their isolated cabin. The details of what happened next vary depending on who tells the story, but the outcome was always the same. The grandmother disappeared, never to be seen again, and the young girl was found dead. Some say she died of fright, others believe she was murdered, but a few whisper that she took her own life rather than face the mob's justice. Ever since that tragic night, people in Pilottown have reported seeing a young girl in old-fashioned clothes wandering the woods and fields around town. She appears most often to other children, sometimes playing games or offering wildflowers, but adults who encounter her describe a sense of unease, as if she's searching for something or someone. The girl's spirit seems particularly drawn to those who are lost or in danger. Several people have reported that when they were hiking and became disoriented, a young girl appeared to guide them back to safety, only to vanish once they reached familiar ground. Whether she's seeking justice for her death, searching for her grandmother, or simply unable to understand that she's no longer among the living, the Witch Girl of Pilot Town remains one of Kentucky's most poignant ghost stories, a reminder of what happens when fear overcomes compassion. Number 9. The Bluegrass Wampus Cat. Deep in the hills of Kentucky, where ancient Cherokee trails wind through dense forests, lives a creature from the borderland between Native American legend and mountain folklore. The Bluegrass Wampus Cat is said to be a fearsome beast with the body of a large wildcat and the cunning intelligence of something far more dangerous. The legend has its roots in Cherokee mythology, telling of a woman who was cursed and transformed into a creature that was neither fully human nor fully animal. She was condemned to roam the mountains forever, unable to return to her people, but unwilling to fully embrace her wild nature. Settlers in Kentucky adapted the story, describing encounters with a cat-like creature that stood 4 feet tall at the shoulder and had eyes that glowed yellow in the darkness. Unlike ordinary wildcats, the Wampus Cat walked on its hind legs when it chose to, and its cry was said to sound like a woman screaming. Mountain families passed down stories of the Wampus Cat for generations. They spoke of livestock found torn apart in ways that suggested something far more powerful than a bobcat or cougar. Hunters told of being stalked through the forest by something that stayed just out of sight, something that seemed to understand their weapons and tactics. One of the most chilling aspects of the Wampus Cat legend is its apparent ability to mimic human voices. Several people have reported hearing family members calling for help from the woods, only to discover that the person they heard was safely at home. The cat, they say, uses this trick to lure people into the forest where it can hunt them without interference. Modern sightings of the Wampus Cat continue, though they're often explained as encounters with known animals or misidentifications. But in the remote hollows of Kentucky, where cell phone signals don't reach and the forest stretches unbroken for miles, old-timers still warn against walking alone after dark. Because in a land where Cherokee spirits and pioneer superstitions merged into something uniquely American, the Wampus Cat continues to prowl the boundaries between legend and reality. Number 10. The Headless Woman of Lexington. In the heart of Lexington stands the Hunt Morgan House, a beautiful federal-style mansion that has witnessed over 2 centuries of Kentucky history. Built in 1814, the house served as the childhood home of Confederate General John Hunt Morgan and has housed some of the most prominent families in the state. But according to numerous witnesses, it's also home to a spirit with a most disturbing appearance. The ghost is known as the Headless Woman, and she's been seen wandering the halls of the Hunt Morgan house for over a century. Dressed in the elegant gowns of the 1800s, she moves gracefully through the rooms, but where her head should be, there's only empty space above her shoulders. The identity of the Headless Woman remains a mystery, though several theories have emerged over the years. Some believe she was a family member who died in a tragic accident, perhaps falling down the mansion's steep stairs. Others suggest she might be connected to the Civil War, when the house served as a gathering place for Confederate sympathizers and may have witnessed violence. Museum staff and visitors have reported encounters with the apparition, usually in the late afternoon or early evening hours. She's most often seen on the 2nd floor, moving from room to room as if searching for something. Witnesses describe the unsettling experience of seeing a figure in period dress that appears completely normal until you realize she has no head. The ghost seems to be aware of the living, as she's been known to stop and look toward people who enter her space, despite having no visible head to turn. Some visitors report feeling as though they're being watched or followed, even when they can't see the apparition. One of the most disturbing encounters involved a tour guide who was alone in the house after hours. She heard the rustle of silk fabric coming from an empty room and went to investigate. There, standing before an antique mirror, was the Headless Woman, apparently trying to arrange her non-existent hair. Whether she's a victim of violence, an accident, or something more mysterious, the Headless Woman of Lexington continues to roam the Hunt Morgan house, a reminder that some spirits are marked by the manner of their passing and may never find peace. Number 11. The Wild Man of Eastern Kentucky. In the rugged mountains of eastern Kentucky, where coal mines have carved deep into the earth and forests stretch unbroken across steep ridges, there are stories of something that walks upright but isn't quite human. The Wild Man, as locals call him, has been spotted in the region for over a century, always just at the edge of civilization, always just beyond complete understanding. Described as standing 8 to 10 feet tall and covered in dark matted hair, the Wild Man is Kentucky's version of the creature known elsewhere as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. But the Kentucky version has characteristics that set it apart from similar legends in other regions. Witnesses describe an intelligence in its eyes that suggests more than animal cunning, and some report that it seems to understand human speech, even if it doesn't respond. Coal miners working the night shift have reported seeing the creature watching them from the tree line, never approaching but clearly curious about their activities. The Wild Man seems particularly interested in human technology, and several people have found evidence that something large has been examining their vehicles, leaving behind handprints too large to be human. One of the most compelling accounts came from a family living in a remote hollow who woke one morning to find their trash scattered and their garden partially harvested. Large footprints led from their backyard into the forest, and they discovered that someone or something had carefully selected only the ripest vegetables, leaving the rest untouched. The creature's intelligence is further suggested by its apparent ability to avoid trail cameras and other attempts to document its existence. Hunters have found structures made of woven branches that serve no obvious purpose, and some believe these are either shelters or territorial markers left by the Wild Man. In a region where people have always lived close to nature and understood that the mountains hold secrets, the Wild Man represents something primal and mysterious. Whether he's a surviving population of unknown primates, a remnant of ancient peoples, or something else entirely, he remains one of eastern Kentucky's most enduring mysteries. A reminder that even in the modern age, there are still places where the wild things roam free. Number 12, the Gray Lady of Liberty Hall. In Frankfort, Kentucky's capital city, stands Liberty Hall, an elegant Georgian mansion built in 1796 by John Brown, one of Kentucky's first U.S. senators. The house has hosted presidents, foreign dignitaries, and Kentucky's most prominent families throughout its long history. But among all its distinguished guests, none has stayed longer than the spirit known as the Gray Lady. The Gray Lady is believed to be the ghost of Mrs. Margaret Varick, the aunt of John Brown's wife. Mrs. Varick came to stay at Liberty Hall while it was under construction and loved the house so much that she declared she would never leave, a promise she apparently kept even after death. Described as an elegant woman in gray silk, she's most often seen in the front parlor or ascending the main staircase. Unlike many ghosts, the Gray Lady seems quite comfortable with visitors and has never been reported as frightening or malevolent. Instead, she appears to take pride in showing off the beautiful home she's watched over for more than 2 centuries. Tour guides and museum staff have countless stories of encounters with the Gray Lady. She's been seen adjusting flowers in vases, straightening furniture, and even welcoming guests at the front door. Visitors have photographed what appears to be a woman in period dress, standing in rooms where no one was present, and several have reported the distinct scent of lavender perfume in areas where she's been spotted. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Gray Lady's presence is her apparent approval of the house's transformation into a museum. Staff members report that she seems pleased when visitors admire the home's furnishings and architecture, and some believe she deliberately makes herself more visible when she wants to draw attention to particular historical details. The Gray Lady has become such an accepted part of Liberty Hall that she's included in official tours, and visitors often ask specifically about her. Museum staff treat her as they would any long-term resident, acknowledging her presence and speaking of her with affection and respect. In a state where hospitality is legendary, the Gray Lady of Liberty Hall represents the ultimate hostess, one who loved her home so much that death itself couldn't convince her to leave. She remains a gracious presence, ensuring that Liberty Hall continues to welcome guests with the same elegant charm it has maintained for over 2 centuries. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.